Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Small Attainable Goals. I'm Sean. Today I'm going to be interviewing Gavin Eddings. He is a horror YouTuber, a comedian, and just an all around great person. If you're here for him, thanks for coming and enjoy. And maybe check out some other videos. I don't know. Whatever makes you happy. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's get started.
Cool.
Uh, who are you?
Hey, my name is Gavin Eddings, and I am from Evansville, Indiana, and I am a comedian slash horror YouTuber slash horror podcaster. That is who I am.
That is very accurate.
Yeah, I do a little bit of everything. I try to do a little bit. I did radio for a long time. Then radio, I kind of got out of due to just COVID hit everybody really hard. So I kind of got out of that space. And then during COVID, I was like, well, I still really like being creative. I like that being doing the creative energy. So that's when I kind of got into like YouTube. And I've always been like a big horror movie fan. So I was like, well, what do I want to do for YouTube? And I was like, well, I could do horror. I mean, it's something I know a lot about. I can totally talk about it for a long time, do movie review stuff like that. And I just like discovered there's a channel on YouTube called Dead Meat that does like the kill counts. He's like got a huge following, and I was like, well, that looks fun. I think I could do that. And he still has way more followers than I do and subscribers, but I still have my humble little like 2,800 subscribers, which is 2,800 more than I ever thought I would attain on YouTube. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's 2,800 more than I have, so that's
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. So
You're
some
doing great.
people, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, "Well, most people just quit after like 6 months. So if you're still doing it after 6 months, then you're already more successful than 90% of people on YouTube who think they're gonna make one video, they're gonna hit that 100,000 subscribers with one video. It's like, no, that it does not work that way.
Yeah, I'm just shooting for 10. I have 9 right now, so
Do you?
fingers crossed.
What is your YouTube channel about?
Small attainable goals. It's
Okay.
basically just me and my sister. So when COVID happened, my life kind of like shut down,
Hmm.
and I didn't have work. I'm a dog trainer and like a dog walker, but when everyone's home from work, then they don't really need you to walk their dog.
That is
I mean, I
true.
still had some, but not that many. So then basically I had like 2 years almost, or I think it was like a year to like fully just like invest in like my mental health and just be like,
Hmm.
okay, time to figure out what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I started, talking to my therapist more, and I got diagnosed with OCD, and I had already been rocking depression and anxiety for,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
a couple decades, but then the OCD, and then I got on like the right medication, and I started to feel better, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I just like, I started noticing a lot of other people because COVID kind of like, well, lockdown kind of
Hmm.
snapped people into being like, oh, wow, maybe being miserable all the time isn't great. And then, so like a lot of other people started realizing like, oh, maybe we should deal with our mental health. And I was like, oh, well, because my brother-in-law's friend started going through some stuff, and then I was just talking to him, and he was like, oh, you should start a podcast. And I was like, I don't know how to do that, but maybe I could start a YouTube channel. And then
Yeah.
so I really wanted to like help people and like get them to like realize like you don't have to do everything all in one big step. I mean, this took me like a year and a half to set up and start.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, I'm clearly farther ahead than if I just never started. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people get like overwhelmed, and they're like, oh, well, I have to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And then they're just like, I just won't do anything. Because I know that I'm like that.
Hmm.
So I've kind of like figured out that if I just do one little thing, like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel, I'll need a space to do that. And I was like, I'm going to have an office. So that day I cleaned out a room. That was it.
Yeah,
And then, you just slowly build up and build up. And then eventually you get where you want to go.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's what this what I like about like having those small obtainable goals, because you can't just go into something thinking, well, I'm gonna immediately be a hit. I'm
Mhm.
gonna do this. It took me a couple months before I was finally ready to like start a YouTube channel, because I was in radio for 8 years. It's what I went to school for, and then COVID happened and with kind of like with dog walking, stuff like that, when everybody's locked down and stuck at home, advertisers aren't paying to advertise their business because their
Yeah.
business is closed, and all of radio makes their money through advertising. And that it's not just like playing the music; they got to pay those bills with like the car dealership wanting you to come down and buy the newest Honda or whatever. So when that shut down, I got furloughed for a while and just kind of hung out on unemployment for a summer, which is actually like, I mean, it wasn't awful because we had all those bonuses and stuff. So I was just like sitting at home going like, man, I got all this free time and I've got a little bit of money now. I could start this thing. I've been wanting to do a creative thing for a while. So I started my channel, Gavin Loves Horror, in July of 2020. And I tried to focus so heavily on like making that first video like perfect, and it's
Yeah.
like it's got to be it has to have the best editing, the best lighting, best everything, and it turned out good. It's definitely, I don't know if it's my worst video. There's always that saying that just make something, put it out there, stop worrying so much about how perfect it is, how good it's got to be. Just put something out, because undoubtedly your first video is going to be your worst video. You will learn, and I am still learning. I think I checked it. I'm 180 videos deep into this journey now, 3 years later. I didn't really see a lot of success until last summer when I just made one video about the movie The Black Phone, where I compared the movie version to the short story, and that just kind of blew up and got me a lot of subscribers. So it just
Yeah.
takes one video, but to get to that one video, I had to do like 80 other videos that were good and had some traction. But sometimes the best thing you can do is just make something. It may not be your best video, but at least you're putting something out there for people to enjoy. And if it's just for me, I do a lot of horror reviews, I do reaction videos. Even if I do a reaction video that takes me like an hour to make, I mean, it's still it may not be the most thought-provoking content, but it's still something I'm doing. It's still something that people can enjoy. And that's what it's about. It's about just one video at a time and seeing where that video can take you.
Yeah. I think that it's just, and then plus, once you get that one video that blows up, then you have a big back catalog so people can just go through and watch everything.
Yeah.
So that's good. And
Mhm.
then, yeah, I mean, it's good to have a lot of content.
Yeah, and sometimes though I was like, "Oh no, you're gonna think that all my videos are this good. Please don't watch those videos." Um, but lately, what I've realized is YouTube's really pushing like their shorts content. Like they want to be
Yeah.
they
They
want to
want to
be
be
in
Instagram.
they want to be Instagram. They want to be in that TikTok space. And right now, I've got two shorts that are kind of doing very well, like getting thousands of views a day, about like Scream 6. Like, who's the killer in Scream 6? It took me like 15, 20 minutes to make, and it's doing very, very well because people Google that, they watch my short and they subscribe or whatever, which is
Yeah.
awesome. But then it's a bummer when like this short form content does better than the video that you put all of this time and energy into, like hours of editing, and you're like, well, I made this video too. Look at me being long form. And they're like, could you keep your content to under 20 seconds, please?
Yeah. They're like, we don't have the attention span. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't have time to listen to what you have to say. So if you could just do this
Uh,
in 15-second spurts, it's going to be
which,
better for
and you're
all
just
of
like,
us.
I have to watch 100 of these videos in the next 10 minutes. So please just carry on.
If you do not
Finish
capture
the
me
content.
in the first zero point 0.5 milliseconds, I'm going to swipe away if I don't like your face.
That is how it goes sometimes. That's how I am picking new TV shows now. I have like the attention span of a gnat sometimes. I'm just like, yeah, I can't get into this. And it's been like a half hour. And I'm just like, nah, I can't get
Yeah.
into this. This show's an
And
hour and a half. Oh no. Sorry.
yeah, and I watch shows with some people that they like really slow shows. They like shows that like it
Yeah.
takes a while to get it. You have to watch at least 15 episodes and then it gets good. It's like that is half of a season. That is quite the commitment. 15 episodes before it gets good. I like it to be good immediately because I
That's
have other stuff I could be doing.
that's like anime. My friend tried to get me into like watching this one show and he's like, it gets really good around like episode 50. And I was like, that's like a day
Is it One
I'm
Piece?
watching.
Is he talking about One Piece?
Yeah, no, he was talking about Fairy Tale. One Piece
Okay.
doesn't get good until like episode like 100. One day, I just put that on the background one time, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And like, whenever I just zone in and out, and then like
Yeah.
whatever I miss, I just kind of like I look up online like, How did they get to this island? Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, talking about like anime has such an intimidating point of entry at times where there's so much lore and so many shows are offshoots of other shows. Like I like Gundam. And when I say
Yeah.
I like Gundam Wing because that's what I
Mhm.
watch on Toonami. And they're like, well, have you watched 8th MS Team? Have you watched Half Blood Unicorn or what? Or have you watched like
Yeah.
Blood Unicorn? It's like, no, I like
No, I
Gundam
haven't.
Wing. I like this one specific version. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, you need to check out 35 years worth of back catalog, and then we can talk about this obscure thing from one of the movies.
Yeah, there's only, like, a few like, there's, like, a handful of anime where, like, you can get, like, roped in and then, like, you can, like, finish it in, like, a day or, like, a
Mhm.
weekend. Like, Parasite: The Maximum, that's actually pretty good.
Okay.
It's like a horror one. He gets, like,
Mhm.
possessed by, like, an alien, but the alien goes for his head, but he screws up and he lands in his hand, and
Oh.
then so he's got, like, this alien on his hand the whole time. It's, like, 13 episodes, I think. It's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, me with anime, I can binge it. Like I got really into Dragon Ball Super. And then I got to the world's tournament, like the universe's tournament or whatever, and then I just like tournament of power is what it is. And
Yeah.
then I kind of got like it kept going on for way too long, and then I kind of zoned out. If I watch too much anime, I have to watch like a live action show because I need to remember what actual people look like.
Yeah. That happens. I end up watching like the same shows over and over again. Like I've watched New Girl probably like 100 times.
Okay.
Uh, just it's a fantastic show.
I've
If you're
never
watching
f
this
I've
and you
never
see it,
finished New Girl. I've never finished New
really,
Girl. I've never finished New Girl, no.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's not like I don't know. It takes like a really specific like style of like comedy and like it's a good background show
Oh,
to
yeah,
have on.
no, I love New Girl, and I watched it till the very last season, even though it kind of went up. Do you feel like it went on a season longer than it should have?
Yeah, it kind of burned off towards the end, and then like the series finale was good, but it was
Yeah.
like a little bit too long.
Yeah.
And like they were like, it's 3 years later, and you're like, no, no, it's not.
Because because they thought they were ending at one point, and then you have the 2 main characters, like, kissing in the elevator, and you're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, that could have been the ending," and then they're like, "But
Yeah,
we're gonna do 6 more episodes just because
yeah.
we like money."
I mean, you could have just done one more episode, and it would have been great.
Mhm,
That's
yeah.
like Supernatural. Like Supernatural was like, wow, this show is like perfect after like season 5, and then like they're just like, we're gonna make 10 more. And you're just like, what?
I can't
Why?
even I can't even remember when I left off of Supernatural because that's when I would watch it in chunks. I
Mhm.
would just get through it in giant chunks and then get to, like, 1 through 5, then I go away. Then I'd be like, I think I was in season 9 with, like yeah, I got to season 9, I
Whenever the
think.
Leviathan came in, that was when it got kind of like, ugh.
I think that's maybe where I was. I know that, I think Dean got, like, the mark of something,
Oh, the Mark
and
of Cain.
the mark of Ca that is it, yes, and
Mhm.
that's where I kind of dipped out, and it wasn't bad at anything, but then you have so many characters coming and going and dying and living, and you're just like, "I can't keep track of these people anymore."
Yeah, that show destroyed me in one episode. They so I'm guessing you remember the dad, right? Jeffrey
Yes,
D. Morgan,
that is
Negan.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's a fantastic actor. Whatever he's
Oh,
in,
absolutely.
I always watch him. But so in one episode, they like promoted it as like a killer clown episode. Like that's what the thing was, like the
Mhm.
commercial for the preview for the next week. They were like, "Oh, it's a killer clown," and he's like, "Oh man, we got to kill John Wayne Gacy." Okay, and then like in that episode, like it leads to like him finding like some weird magic lamp or like it's just magic shit. And he goes and he like makes a wish that his dad was back, and then his dad comes back, and this was a month to the day of my dad dying.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like bawling my eyes out because he's like, Dad, I can't believe you're here. And like my sister's like walks by the room and she's like, are you okay? What's happening? I was like, he came back. He came back. The dad came back. And she's like, oh, okay. You know that our dad's dead, right? And I was like, yeah, no, I know. She's like,
Oh, what a bummer reminder to be like,
yeah,
"Oh, yeah, are you having a rough time? Also, here's a sad reminder of the reality where we find ourselves in."
yeah. And I was just like, oh my God. It was a little, well, since I, you know, enlightened you with that super dark story, uh, how'd you get into comedy? It's a great transition.
Just tragedy. No, I got into comedy because, as lame as it sounds, I know people like to shit on him now, but I got into comedy because I thought Dane Cook looked like he was having the absolute most fun of anybody I've ever seen in my entire life. I remember specifically, it's 2005. I'm watching Comedy Central After Dark when they would like show stuff uncensored, and they
Mhm.
did Dave Attell's Insomniac tour. It was like Dave Attell, Greg Giraldo, and Dane Cook headline. And Dane Cook absolutely just crushed it in Las Vegas. And I thought Dane Cook was the pinnacle of comedy. I was like, it does not get better than Dane Cook. And then 2005, I started doing comedy a little bit, like at parties and stuff. It wasn't very seriously. And then I started doing it for real in college in 2008, which is when I've been doing it pretty much ever since. As you can tell, the 15 years I put into it, I'm so famous now. But it's something that I've just always loved doing. I love that I get to do it. I love that I have friends who are like very successful and still talk to me. And it's nice to see because you've had one of my best friends who I do the They're Coming to Get You podcast with, Brent Terhune on, and Brent is he is the same person that he was when I met him in 2014. Even though he has like this huge, massive following on Twitter and he has like the redneck y'all love to hate character, he still is like will text me stupid gifs of Kirby and like other, and so he's the same person. And my other friend, who Brent also knows, who does the cafeteria podcast with him, Ryan Niemiller, took like third on America's Got Talent. Super funny, super nice. Still the same person, still will text me every week about wrestling stuff. So I'm so happy that I get to do this thing where I can bring joy to a crowd and also have great friends who I've made who are really succeeding and who are just I'm happy for all of my friends' success and I'm happy for the success that I've had, that I've been able to be charismatic enough to carry a YouTube channel, to do a podcast that people enjoy. And it's nice when your friends ask you to do stuff with them. Like Brent was like, "Let's start a podcast together." And I was like, "Well, that's super cool that you w- like me enough and that we're friends enough that we're like, well, let's do a podcast together." So it's super great.
Yeah. I mean, you guys started doing, I think what probably happened, and he'll probably never admit this, but you started doing his other podcast, the Field Trip,
Yes.
and those were like the best episodes, right? Because you
Oh,
guys are like, you guys like play off each other pretty well. Like you could tell
uh-huh.
that you're actually friends and you're not just
Yeah.
like work associates.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I know that. Yeah, well, I really appreciate you saying that. I'm sure Brent would too. And yeah, we had such a good time doing those. And and he came on my YouTube channel like one of my early episodes. We talked about hillbilly horror, and we did like a whole video thing. I was like, "Hey man, you want to come on my thing and we can talk about this?" He's like, "Let's just start a podcast. I think that'd be more fun. We both like horror. We already talk about this stuff anyway." And it's so I really appreciate you saying that you enjoy those episodes. Brent is friends with a lot of people on there, but I'm glad that ours really like stood out. So that makes me happy, and I'm glad that you've said a lot of nice things about like our podcast to me on Twitter, which is awesome. Which is kind of how you reached out to me. I've never been asked to do somebody else's like podcast aside from like Brent's, who I've never met
yeah,
before. So it was super cool that you're like, I like this guy's Twitter stuff, I like his podcast stuff. So I'll have him on my thing. So I really appreciate being invited on here.
yeah,
It
of
really
course.
is.
I
It's
appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm not doing anything else on a Thursday night, so I
Yeah.
mean,
This is how much I like your podcast. I don't really like horror that much. I like
okay.
movie monsters and I like it's weird because like a lot of the things that you guys do, I actually do like those movies. But
Hmm.
like except like Terrifier, like I would never watch Terrifier. I'd never watch Terrifier 2. I would just never in my entire life. If there's a clown on the cover, I'm just like, nope. My
Are
friend
you?
used to my friend
Do you,
used to chase me around
oh, okay.
Blockbuster with the original It cover.
Mm,
And it's not like I'm like afraid of clowns, like they just make me uncomfortable. And
okay.
like to the point, it was because a clown tried to kill me when I was a kid. I was
My brother got sucked into a sewer, and we
my
never
brother was
saw him
tricked
again.
into a swimmer, and yeah, they kept saying, "Oh, you'll float too, George," and he didn't float. He just sunk right down to the bottom. But there was like this like party thing at our school one time, and there was like clowns walking around, and the clown like sometimes clowns are dicks and they see you and they're like, "Oh, you're uncomfortable with me? I'm gonna follow you." And I was
Yeah.
always like the big kid in school, so like they were like expecting, like a fifth grader like who's like 5 foot maybe, but I was like 5'6" when I was in fifth grade, and so I was like taller than the clown. And they're just like,
Mhm.
I was like, "Look, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Please just stay away from me." And he was like, "Oh, okay, sorry, 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 sorry."
Yeah. For me, I don't like clowns, and it's not that I'm afraid of clowns, I just don't like them. I just don't
Yeah,
I don't get the appeal. Some of them
me
can be,
neither.
like, unnecessarily creepy for no reason. I've never had my experience enhanced by a clown being nearby.
Yeah, the only clown that I like watching is the Joker, and that's
Okay,
only if Mark Hamill is voicing him.
okay. Are
Everything
you
else, I'm just like, yeah.
you're not a fan of any of the other Jokers?
I mean, I'm a fan of like some of them. Like, yes, of course, Heath Ledger was great. Never saw the Joaquin Phoenix one. It just looked
Mhm.
too creepy. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so there's no Batman. I'm good.
It's a
I'm
weird
good.
movie, and it's very strange that so many people like Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger have both won Oscars for playing the Joker, as as long as if the Joker is like this great like Shakespearean character.
Yeah, I don't
It's like
I don't get
why
it.
we yeah, and it just seems like people Heath Ledger especially because he died playing
Hmm.
the Joker because he went so into character. For me, it just seems like a lot of people will take the role of the Joker as an excuse to just be super weird. Like
Hmm.
reading the stories of like Jared Leto as the
God,
Joker in
Jared.
like Suicide Squad, and Jared
Yeah,
Leto as a whole is like kind of problem.
yeah, he's
But just like,
problematic, and
I'm gonna mail used condoms to my coworkers because that's what the Joker would do. I've read a lot of Batman. Batman's one of my favorites. I've never seen the story where the Joker mails condoms to Batman.
I saw that one. It was a triple X though,
Okay.
so it was only available in like Japan.
And the Joker was mostly tentacles, so
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense for sure.
yeah. There was a recently there was a comic where the Joker got pregnant somehow. I don't remember how, but
Oh, okay. Well, when you have 100 years of history,
mhm.
you gotta keep those stories fresh.
Yeah. The I don't
And now we're all creeped out. Now we've
yes.
all creeped out
Now we're
for
all
sure.
weirded out and we ruined everything. Sorry. But
Yeah.
yeah, the rest of them, the rest of the things, I never saw Phantasm. I never, but like listening to you guys talk about it, I was like, oh, I,
Yeah.
I might, I might watch this.
I like talking about Phantasm because he clearly liked it more than I did.
Oh yeah,
And
no, he sounded like he loved it.
he loved it, and I don't dislike it. But we did our wrap up episode, and I was like, I think the worst one we watched this year was was Phantasm, and he's like, what? How could it? I was like, it's not bad. It's just the worst one we watched of this batch of movies. And then he feels the same way about Hellraiser, which I think Hellraiser is fine. I think it's just not. I Pinhead is an icon, undoubtedly. Those some of the movies though are not. A lot of them are very bad,
Yeah,
but I like finding
most of them
movie
are bad.
that yes I like finding movies with the chemistry of they're coming to get you is I love finding things that Brent is not going to enjoy because his reaction he can be very dry sometimes and just him being like I don't like Hellraiser, so I'm trying to get us to cover at some point this season Spawn, like the movie Spawn, because
That is the weirdest movie.
it is, and I wanna cover it because, at the end of our Hellraiser episodes, I was like, "Well, if you like chains and stuff, like, we should, like, check out Spawn," and he's like, "I hate Spawn. I hate it." I was like, "Well, guess what we're gonna watch now? We have to watch Spawn and dissect it, and I can go into the comics because
It's a
I."
beautiful like representation of the late '90s when it
Oh,
comes
yes.
to like movie making.
It's like all of like I have some of the trade paperbacks of Spawn that I've been going through that my dad's been getting me, and I was like, I remember being in third grade, and there was, and I'll probably tell the story again on if we do a Spawn episode, so pretend you haven't heard it before.
Oh, I
Uh,
will.
but I remember this kid. He was we were in after school care together, and I remember he was like a little younger than me, but his parents didn't care what he did, so he brought a copy of Spawn to school, and he's like, check this out. He's got a heart ripped out. I was like, that's the most hardcore comic ever. And I was like, Dad, can I read Spawn? He's like, no, because my dad's a big comic guy. He's like, no, you can't read Spawn. That's not okay. No, this is not for children.
You're 6. No.
You are 6 years old. We're going to watch The Lion King again now, and then you'll be happy. But
Yeah. That
yeah.
was like how my dad was, except he would just be like, "Oh, it's a cartoon? Okay." So I watched all of the anime and West Coast videos back in the '90s, and I was like 3 years old, and I would like watch them, and my dad would just go, "Yeah, no, it's a cartoon." So my mom would like let me watch it, and then one day she walked in, she was like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And like he's like ripping some dude's arms off and stuff. And I still 30 years later, I still remember it like clear as day. She's just like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And I was like, "Oh,
You're
it's the Guyver. Nah, he's cool. He's a good guy, mom. It's cool."
I'm watching this show called Elfen Lied,
Yeah.
uh, where it's just nothing but nudity and violence. Like,
Yeah.
that is all that show is.
I watched that as a teenager, and I was like, "This is uncomfortable."
This is I watched it, I was like, "This is hot." No, I don't I've watched, like, the first episode of, like, "This is, okay, yeah, I see why people like it," but I just like I said, an anime really has to hook me, and you're always afraid that somebody's gonna walk in like your mom did on, like you could be watching, like, the most regular part of a Dragon Ball Z episode, but they're gonna walk in on the horniest part that
Mhm.
you are watching, and then you have to explain why the anime characters are trying to bang.
Yeah. And then your mom's just like super confused, like, I don't understand this. But then like, I'll walk in on my mom and she's watching like some like the woman was murdered and strangled with her own torso. And I'm like, what are you watching? And it's like 12 o'clock at night. And she's like, oh no, it's just a little light video to watch. She's like, Jesus
It's not even
Christ.
12 o'clock anymore. That's on, like, just regular prime time, like, seven
I know.
o'clock, like, Dateline 2020. This is how Gabby, whatever her name, went missing and was killed by her boyfriend, and they're like, "Oh, this is just on during regular times." And I grew up watching, with my parents, we watched America's Most Wanted growing
Oh
up.
my God. That scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Oh, same. It scared the shit out of me, and I was confused. I didn't realize they were doing reenactments. I thought
Yeah.
all of these crimes had a camera crew, and I was like, "Why is nobody intervening?
Why is
They're
no one
letting
helping them?
why is no one helping them?" Like, I know where he is. He's in the video. I know where he's hiding out. He's in the video. But I did jokes about it in my stand up for a long time about how I grew up just terrified of everything because like I was afraid of the world, like being kidnapped and just watching that every week and just
Yeah.
and like keeping track of like, well, where's they at? What have they caught that person that's grabbing the kids yet in the Pacific Northwest? Have they got him yet? Because he could
Yeah.
be here.
Is he moving across the country? I don't know what's happening. I was like that too. And that was when I found out that it was like, years later I'd find out, oh, that's anxiety. Okay.
Yeah.
But then like as a kid, like my parents never like told me like there's a chance that you might get kidnapped. My parents were like, you will be taken and this is how you fight. So like my dad was like teaching me how to fight like grown men as like a small child. And then he's like, you want to go for the eyes? And like so I never knew. And then like 2 years ago, I just went down like a weird like Wikipedia rabbit hole and I found out that 2 days after I was born, so I would assume the day that my parents probably brought me home, that was the anniversary of when John Walsh's son was found.
Oh, yeah.
So that must have had like a huge like media coverage. So my parents
Mm.
probably came home with a newborn baby and they're just like sitting down they're like, okay, let's watch TV with our newborn. And it was probably just like he was taken from an arcade and then like they were probably just like they'd probably just ruined them. And
Oh, yeah.
so like ever since then, they were just like, oh my God. Like I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. I am still terrified whenever a car slows down next to me. I know that they're not going to take me like logically, but like every single time they like slow down, I'm like, oh God, this is it. This
This
is
is
it.
how I go.
This is what's gonna happen. And it's always like a woman and she's like, excuse me, do you know where the library is? And I'm just like, I don't know anything. Leave me alone.
I don't know what this is. Leave me alone. Stranger, stranger, stranger.
Stay away
I
from me.
so I grew up hearing about the Adam Walsh case too. And then when I worked retail for 10 years and they have this thing in stores called Code Adam. And Code Adam
Yeah.
is when a child goes missing. And that is the most stressful thing because I worked at like Sears for a long time. Sears is the store where Adam Walsh was taken.
Yeah.
So they're like super about it. Um, and then I worked at Hobby Lobby, and I remember the few times we had a Code Adam, and it was the most stressful time to have to stop doing your job and look for a missing child. Like
Yeah.
I'm making $6 an hour at Sears plus commission on hardware.
Mhm.
It should not be my job to locate a missing child. That is
Yeah.
terrifying.
That is terrifying, and, like, most of the time, they're probably just, like, hiding in a coat rack or something.
Yeah, and then they find him like 20 minutes, or they find him like 20 seconds later, and they're like, "Oh, we found him. We're okay now." Cancel code Adam. You're like, "Oh, now I
Yeah,
can go back to hating these customers."
yeah. They used to do, like, that. I mean, it wasn't like a code Adam or anything, but, like, at a gym that I worked at, if, like, one of the kids, like, got loose, they would, like, shut down the whole thing. But the most annoying thing was they would shut everything down and tell all the staff to, like, go look for him, but then when they found him, they wouldn't tell the rest of the staff. So, like, you would it'd be, like, 20 minutes later, and they'd just be like, "Oh, no, we found him, like, a while ago. You can stop looking." And I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" So I've just been panicking this whole time. They're like, "Ah, yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine."
Yeah.
It's like, "Gee, thanks."
Yeah, and I still know, like, the things that you can d like, you're always supposed to, if somebody is missing, like, if they're missing, you always remember, like, what kinda shoes they have on, because a kidnapper can, like, cut their hair or, like, change their clothes, but they probably won't bring them a different pair of shoes. It's like, "Why do I remember this? Why is this ingrained living rent free in my head forever?"
Well, I mean, that's, like, emotional scarring. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's what that is. That's trauma. Uh,
Yeah, and one thing you asked me about to be on this podcast was about, like, dealing with, like, anxiety and depression, and one of your questions, was, about anxiety and depression. Do you wanna get into that, or you wanna talk about, like,
yeah,
just
I mean,
yeah.
that's what the main thing is. We're just trying to
Okay.
help people, so
Yeah. So, the question, I think it was really, pointed, like, do you ever have bouts of anxiety and or depression? If so, how do you deal with them? Yes to both of those questions, which I don't know how I'm able to get on a stage and tell jokes to people. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears a lot of people have. I have to go up on a stage and try to elicit like an emotion, like a reaction. I have to get that reaction. It's not like playing acoustic guitar in the background of like a restaurant. You're where people can just kind of hear you and be like, "Oh yeah, that's nice," and go about their conversation. I'm trying to get you to react to what I'm saying. I'm up there by myself.
yeah.
I
You want
don't
people to
know.
pay attention to you.
Yes, I do not know why I do it to myself. I don't know what happened to me that makes me seek this attention from outside sources, but I am far more comfortable on a stage with sometimes hundreds of people looking at me than going into a party where I don't know anybody.
Yeah,
I would rather be on a stage with talking to strangers trying to make them laugh than going someplace where I don't know anybody or I have to be like uncomfortable for like a small point. I'm a very um extroverted introvert, like outwardly extroverted, but like I like my alone time and my time to unwind.
yeah. That's how I am with, like, whenever I go to, like, parties and stuff, like,
Mhm.
I just kinda hang out in the corner, and then, like, I'll be talking, and I always forget how loud I am,
Mhm.
so, like, occasionally, like, people will, like, gather around and, like, be listening, and then, like, I'll look around and I'll realize, like, "Oh, there's a bunch of people watching me," and then I'll just, like, kinda shut down, even though, like, 30
Yeah.
seconds later, I was, like, the life of the party.
Yeah. Like, I had this it's fun how things that, like, these weird, minor, insignificant things happen, and you're like, "Well, I'm gonna think about that now forever." Every night before I go to bed, I'm gonna think about like, today at work, I thought I heard, one of my coworkers say something, and I was like, "Oh, did you say what I think you said?" And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm glad I brought this up. I'm just gonna think about this every night until I pass away."
Yeah, that's like those memes where they're like, you're trying to, like, have a good night's sleep, and they're like, "Don't you what are you doing? Why are you going to sleep? Don't you wanna think about that time that you said something stupid in the 3rd grade?" And they're just like,
It's like, joke's on you. I only think about what I said stupid in 3rd grade, so,
"Yeah,
haha.
that's all that I do." It is
But yeah.
weird how, like, flash fire memories can happen. I think that's what they're
Oh, yeah.
called, flash fire,
Is
where
it
they're just
what
like
they're called?
I think so, because they, like, just immediately, like, it's just, like, burned into your memory, and it's just, like, the stupid stuff. Like, I have a vivid memory of my dad saying, "God damn it," one time, and it's like it plays, like, in my head, like, on a loop sometimes,
Mhm.
and it was, like, when I was, like, 3, and I'm pretty sure it was just because that was, like, the first bad word I ever heard,
Ah.
but like, I don't know, it's, like, weird.
Yeah, and for me, I'm trying not to think too much about them right now because they will all flood back as we're,
Yeah,
like, talking like, "No, don't don't think too hard, you're gonna hate me." "Nope, nope, oh, no, oh, no." Here they come. But as far as like dealing with anxiety and depression, I do see a therapist. I've had my same therapist now for 10 years.
That's good.
I say I joke. I go, it is the longest and healthiest relationship I've ever had with a woman. It is like my longest term relationship is wait, we're coming up on 10 years this July, and she's literally saved my life so many times. Before I met her, I was going through like a really awful breakup where I was like, not to get too dark, but like measuring the banister in my house for like weight tension and being like, well, I guess we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And like then she got me out of that, and she's been there for me through a lot of different life changes, like career changes, things like that. So I see a therapist. I also am a big proponent of like medicine. I know some people are like, no, just go outside, just go for walks. It's like I need Wellbutrin, okay? I need some
Yeah.
Lexapro and some Zoloft to make my brain chemicals like everybody else's brain chemicals.
Yeah.
And just I'm on anxiety medicine too, and that's the depression has been something that I've had for a long time, as long as I can remember. And then the anxiety is still something that I've also had for a long time, but it seems in the past few years, like I think post COVID, everything got much worse, and that's when I was like, I'm having a panic attack at a J.C. Penney's because I can't find a belt that fits.
Hmm.
I should probably look into why I'm having these feelings.
Yeah. Mine manifested. It started manifesting in like middle school, I think, because I hated going to school and I would get like sick before
Hmm.
school. And so like I went to like all these doctors and they like finally one of them was like, you might have anxiety. And I was like, it's not in my head. Fuck you. Go to hell. And then
It's
like,
not in my head, but
yeah, but
yeah.
it was. I feel kind of bad about that. Um,
I love when people who don't get it try to like give you things. So one of the most infuriating things I've ever seen on the internet was somebody said like they had one of those like black and white memes that was like, this is an antidepressant. It was like a photo of like the fucking woods. And then they're
yeah,
like, this is a lifelong addiction. It had like pills. It's like, it's not an addiction if you moderate it and it's actually like
yeah,
helping you. Like we can't all just go to the woods and feel like hear the birds sing and be like, I'm okay now. Some of us, our brains don't work that way.
yeah. Uh, I hate it when people are like, "Oh, you know what you really need? You need some B12. That's what you need." And I was like, "No, I need fluoxetine and Prozac. That's what I need." Okay,
Have you gone
like
for a walk? Have you gone for a walk?
oh my god, those were like I literally tried everything before I like started like going for medication because first I went to my general practitioner and he was just like, "Oh yeah, you got anxiety. Here's something." Whatever like doctor like what are those people called? Whatever pill pusher came in and was like, "Hey, here's a free pen.
Oh,
Promote
oh,
these." And he was
a
just like, "Yeah,
pharmaceutical rep.
yeah."
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical rep, and then he was just like, "Oh yeah, the hot one gave me this. I mean, this is good for you." Yeah.
Here's some
And then
samples. Do you like them?
yeah, and then I started doing like working out, and then just all this other stuff, just every single thing that every dumb thing that they tell you to do. They're like, go out in the sun for 10 minutes a day. I did that. I went out and I started eating healthier. I started eating more vegetables and I was just like, well, I still feel like shit all the time and I just want to die. And they're like, oh yeah, no, it'll get better. It'll get better. And I was just like, oh God. And then
I
like
hear
I started going to therapists and they were like,
yeah.
it'll get better. It'll get better. And I was like, no, it won't. And then finally, when I found my psychiatrist I go to now, I walked in and the first thing she said to me was, it can get better, but it takes a lot of work.
Mhm.
And, you have to get on like the right medication. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then thank God that worked.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the real answer though is crystals. I think crystals and moon water is
Yeah.
what you probably were missing out on.
My, my brother-in-law's sister is really into that. She makes like moon tea because apparently
Yeah.
that's a thing. And she's like, it has so much power in it. And I was just like, oh my God. And she's like,
There
crystals. Crystals are great. And I was like, therapy's great. She's like, no, but crystals. Shove this up your ass. And I'm like, I don't want to.
there's a girl I know on Facebook, and we had like an eclipse or something, like a lunar. Thing. Like, just make sure to put out all your crystals and some moon water to last us, because this could be our last eclipse for a while. And I was like, I mean, if you want to put some buckets of water outside, like that's yours. It's not hurting anybody, but it's also just good for you. Good
Yeah.
for you.
And, like, the gross thing is, like, sometimes it is hurting some
Yeah.
people because like, they
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, down south, if you leave a bucket of water out in the middle of the night, it's probably just gonna be, like, shit in or, like, mosquitoes, and then you're
Yeah.
just, like, drinking mosquito eggs, and they're just like, "I don't know what happened, I got West Nile virus." I'm like, "Were you drinking moon tea again?" That'll do it.
The moon tea had a little something extra in it this time, so but that's
Yeah.
what the universe wanted for me. It wanted me to get West Nile and drink mosquito eggs.
That's what everyone wanted. That's what Gaia wanted for me. Just like, "Oh my god."
But yeah, I think anybody who is feeling upset or sad or depressed or whatever, get therapy. There's no shame in it. Um, I'm glad that there's so many people now like destigmatizing mental health issues. If you're the kind of person who is trying to stigmatize it, you're like the worst kind of person. Stop doing that.
Yeah,
Because
you're a douchebag, stop.
yeah, just people need help sometimes, and we
Go to
get sometimes.
therapy.
Go to therapy, work out your stuff. It's probably all from your childhood. It's always from your childhood. Um, I'm
Usually
working
is.
I'm working through a lot of stuff right now and like having to talk to like the 13-year-old version of me and just like, hey, you're some of the stuff your mom did. And so some of the reasons you feel like you can't be loved properly, it's because of like your childhood. And I was like, I even joke with my therapist. I'm like, does it always go back to the childhood? And she's like, not always, but also yes.
But also, yes,
But also yes.
sometimes. Yes. It's
Uh,
fun. It's fun to have, like, because they, like, usually your psychiatrist or your therapist have, like, kind of they can match your humor.
mhm.
Like, I know that mine can because she's like before I got, like, diagnosed with ADD, she, like, sent me a test, and, she was like, "Did you take the test that I gave you?" And I was like, "No, it's too fucking boring." And she's like she starts, like, cracking up, and she's like, "That's a sign that you probably have ADD." And I was like, I tried to do it, but I just couldn't finish it." And she's like, "Yeah. Does that happen
Yeah.
a lot?" And I was like, "Yeah. Yeah. Why?
Yeah,
Is that like a thing?" She's like, "Yeah."
I reached a rapport with my therapist where she knows I do comedy. She does that. She's never come seen a show or she's never come to see me or anything. And she's like, if you're ever performing somewhere and I'm there, she's like, is it okay if I'm there or if I see you in public, can I say hello? I was like, yeah, that's fine because some have like that very hard split of like
Mhm.
what happens or whatever. But there was like a time a little while back when I was like having a really rough time with some things, and I was leaving my job, and I was like I just gotten off work and I was like in the parking garage and I was like, I could just go to the top of the parking garage right now and jump off and all my problems would be gone. And I said, the reason I didn't do it was I'd already put a full day of work in. So it seemed like, why would I kill myself after working?
Yeah.
It seems like, so I was like, I guess I'll just go home now. I'm pretty tired.
Yeah. I've done that before. I've had
Yeah.
that. And then I've also had the thing where, like, I remember when I was, like, in my first semester of, like, college, I was just, like, driving and I was like, "I could hit this tree and I wouldn't have to go. I wouldn't have to go to school. I would be done. I could just hit this tree." And then I'd be like, "Ah, damn it." Like,
Yeah, there's a lot
yeah.
of stuff. Yeah, there's like
The
there's a lot of movies I still want to see. Like Guardians of the Galaxy looks pretty good coming out. Like I'm pretty excited about that. So
yeah.
I guess I'll tough it out for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I mean, not for nothing, your podcast has helped me exponentially. Just I get so goddamn bored walking dogs sometimes,
Oh
and
yeah.
I mean, you listen to music, and music's great. It really is.
Mhm.
But like, oh my god, like just hearing you and you and Brent just
Yeah.
bullshitting with each other.
Mhm.
It's great. It's just it gets you out of your head for a while and helps you relax. So I mean, like just that you're helping at least one person.
That really makes me happy because when we're talking about nutting and running and like dumb inside
Yeah,
jokes like that, we don't think that we're like helping people. We think that people enjoy it, but like that means a lot to hear that. And also, I'm so sorry it helps you. I wish it was something better. I
yeah. No, I do too. I wish that I was normal, but it definitely it helps.
I
So
wish that it was like a more I wish we were but no,
yeah,
that means a lot to both
yeah,
of us. I'll be sure to let him know. But that is incredibly kind of you to say. And I'm glad it helps. I'm glad it helps.
yeah,
And sometimes you get caught up in like, well, how did that episode sound? Did we summarize a movie too much? Did we not go into it enough or whatever? And then it was like, nobody has ever said like we hate the way you do your podcast. Like it's all
no,
very people are very kind, people are very much enjoying it. So I am always going to be, and this goes with like comedy or YouTube or podcasting or literally anything I do. I am always going to be my absolute worst critic and
Yeah.
just think that everything I also have super, super bad imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, imposter syndrome is definitely there, and in YouTube and everybody on most of the community, I say community like in quotes because I don't know all of my fans, I don't know, all the community who like enjoys my YouTube content, they're all very nice. Most of the comments are like super nice, like super supportive. Um, but then you have like one comment that's like super shitty, and you're like,
Yeah.
ah, that's the one who really sees through me. They see what a talentless hack I am.
Yeah.
And then that just kind of drags you down. But I've gotten a lot better about stepping away from like engaging and like fighting people on the internet because that can take up so much time, whether it be like politically or just what content you enjoy, just arguing about this or that. It's like, I just don't want to argue about Midsummer anymore. I don't want to argue. So
Yeah.
if you like it, like that's fine. Me and Brent are doing an episode on that coming up in a few weeks. But it's like I just like, and I say this in all my like reviews on my channel, like if you enjoyed it, that's great. I thought it sucked, but I'm not going
Yeah.
to take that away from you if you enjoyed it. All I can do is do negative reviews, and like if it's something, it's always more fun when we don't like something because it's easier to make fun of and make jokes at. But
Yeah.
if you enjoyed it, like I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I still have to like do my job and like make jokes and like make fun of how bad Halloween Ends was. It just wasn't very good,
Yeah.
and I'm
I
sorry
mean,
that.
I shit on stuff all the time, even when I love
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah, and that's how you know you love it. One question you had, on here, which I thought was really fun, do I have any other fandoms? And my other big fandom is I love professional wrestling. Like, it
Yeah.
is one of my favorite things. It comes across on the podcast. It comes across in my videos. Like, I love pro wrestling. It is my longest fandom. Before horror, there was wrestling. I've been a fan since May of 1997. I've loved it forever. I went out of it for a little bit in like the mid 2000s because I was too cool for wrestling. I was like, I'm 15. I'm watching the Matrix sequels. I don't need wrestling, but I love wrestling. And one thing that's fun about wrestling is nobody hates wrestling more than wrestling fans.
It's like Star
So
Wars.
yeah, it's like Star Wars. So many things that I love with all of my soul, like wrestling and Star Wars. And it used to be like I used to really enjoy Rick and Morty, and then I was like, this fan base, I gotta
Oh
get
my
a, I
god. Like,
gotta get a,
I love Rick and Morty,
yeah,
but, like, listening to people, like, freak out, and they're like, "Oh my god," like, it's the same thing with, like, Marvel. They're like,
yeah.
"She-Hulk was fucking awful," and I was like, I liked it.
I
I thought
like
it was
She-Hulk
good.
too. Yeah, and just did you see that movie? How woke it's gotten now? It's like I didn't think it's woke. I think it just had a female lead. I think
I
there's just
there's
a.
a
I think there's just a
woke is
woman
the
in it.
dumbest thing that I've ever heard because it, like they're like, "Oh, man, they went woke," and, like, that implies that you're asleep. Like, so that just means, like, you're sleeping at the wheel, and you have no idea what's going on around you, and there's
That's a
like,
good way.
"Yeah, no, you're woke," and you're like, "Okay, that means that you're asleep."
It's like, was it woke or was there just a black person in it?
Yeah.
Like what? What was so woke about it? Was it because it wasn't a white Jedi? Like, how is this? I had to deal with that in some people were really mad about Evil Dead Rise, and I didn't even know this. Like me and Brent didn't know about when we did our episode, but one of the actors in that is transgender, and we didn't even know until like people online were like, well, this is just woke, and it's like it's not even addressed in the movie. It's just an actor who happens to be trans playing a character. So
Yeah.
I went on like a little rant in my review, and luckily, thankfully, nobody like was mad about that. They're like, yeah, I agree with you. I was like, oh, thank God, I'm cultivating a community
Yeah.
that's not a bunch of assholes.
A healthy community. Oh, thank God.
Oh, thank God. But yeah, professional wrestling I love. But yeah, just when you love something so much, all you can do is like, I want it to be better. So I have to criticize every booking decision they've ever done. And when is CM Punk coming back? I need him back. I just need all of it.
I used to get in arguments. There was this one kid, and he just, like, loved wrestling as a kid, and I was like he was like, "Oh, you don't like wrestling?" And I was like, no. I don't like how fake it is." And then he was like, you don't think it's real, you don't think it's real." And then, like, finally I had to, like, stop him. I was like, "Look, I understand that they are fantastic stunt performers, and they are putting their bodies on the line, and they are doing amazing things, but it's fake in the sense that I know that John Cena does not hate The Rock when he goes home and, like, throw bricks through his window and stuff." Like, those are, like Like, I know that that's not happening, and they're like, "Oh, well." I was like, "It's just very soap opera-y, and that's just not my style." And they're like, "Oh," and I was like, "The stunts are still cool though. They're still awesome, but I don't think they're actively trying to kill each other, which is I
So
hope not."
so you're at level 1 of wrestling fandom. I'm so far down this rabbit hole. I now enjoy reading about the backstage drama more than the actual in-ring product. I was
Didn't
like,
the one guy
"Oh,
get stabbed in the shower? I
uh,
remember seeing that in Behind the Wrestling or whatever.
yeah." So that was Bruiser Brody back in like the 80s, like 70s or 80s. Yeah, he really got killed.
Yeah,
Like
that's
he
insane.
he really got stabbed to death. That was the thing that happened. And like there was a wrestler who's since passed away. His name's New Jack, and he was just like uh he was in ECW, and then one time, him and another wrestler had like a fall go wrong, and it left New Jack blind in one eye. Left him blind in one eye. So the next time they had a match, it was like a scaffolding match where they had like on this. They stacked tables up in the ring and they fought over the ring in a scaffolding. And to get revenge, New Jack tried to actually kill his opponent, like not like fake kill, tried to throw him into like the ring post from a scaffolding. So
That's
sometimes, like, so
insane.
you need to just what you're saying is you need to go deeper down the wrestling rabbit hole and really find out who hates each other and who will stab them in the shower. That's when you're a
Now
real
I
fan.
kinda don't want to. That just sounds, like, terrifying. Just like I liked thinking it was like, they were, "Oh, we're all in this together, and we're doing this," but
And a lot of them are. And nowadays, back in like the 80s and 90s, like a lot of wrestlers were just like to prove you were a man, you're like you had to go out and drink and booze it up and like sleep with women. And a lot of that sleep with women is just assault. A lot
yeah,
of these stories like that you hear like wrestlers like, that was a difference. Like, no, these are crimes you're laughing about. But
yeah,
now wrestling is because people have grown up in like the 90s. Most wrestlers now have like Twitch channels instead of like going out and like popping a bunch of like Xanax and Loratabs and like Oxycontin. They're like, we're gonna get on stream tonight and we're gonna play Uno together, and it's gonna be the most popular thing and the funnest thing you watch. So it's really really cool that it does seem to be in a much healthier place now than like the 80s.
that's good. I mean,
Mhm.
no one's gotten stabbed in a shower, so
Not in a while, so that's good. But depending on how those Uno games go, you never know.
God, can you admit? Probably someone probably has gotten murdered over Uno. I've
Oh,
gotten heated.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I just imagine like I think about like the Sopranos episodes where like go to like an executive card game and they're like gotta play a bunch of like poker and like imagine like a mafia like high stakes game, but they're just playing Uno for
Yeah,
like a large amount of money.
just
Like
something stupid. Like they're doing like Pokemon battles. Like they have two Game Boys linked up, and they're just like, "You're gonna fucking die." And you're just like, "Oh my god,
oh, this you fucking hacked your Gengar. I see it. I see how it is now. You're over level 100. This is some bullshit.
you son of a bitch! You used a bunch of rare candies. You son of a bitch! I know you're cheating."
I know what you did. You did the rare candy trick where you put in an item, you put in the 6 item slot. Then you went up and down the coast with surf until a missing number came out.
Yeah, that's what you did, didn't you? And it's like, no, no, I
Oh
didn't.
no.
And like he was shot.
He was
They,
shot.
they flip it, and they're just like, you're just like, oh my god.
For sure. One thing that going back to comedy, and these I love getting this question. And this is a fun one. What's the strangest place you've ever done a show? And have you ever done any shows that felt sketchy or creep you out during?
Mhm.
Yes and yes. Um, strangest place I've ever done a show is an Alcoholics Anonymous picnic. They invited me to do like, and this was like I'd only been doing comedy for like 6 months, and one of the performers was like a recovering alcoholic. He's like, come to this AA picnic. So I performed for this, and it was fine. They weren't like mean or anything. It was very they were all very sober, so that was cool. But
But
what
all
made
your
it
jokes are alcohol based, and they were just
yeah,
like,
they're just
can't,
like yeah,
we
they're
can't, man.
like we can't hear these jokes. But what was funny about that show and what it was so strange was we followed when they did the cakewalk, and then we were preempting them giving away the raffle prizes. So we were like the worst thing to put between there because they just won cake and they wanted to win like a Vizio TV. So we were just like holding up the festivities.
Yeah, they're
which,
just like, "Come
yeah.
on, hurry up, man."
Hurry up. It's just like people are like, "Oh, you could go on the road. You get to go to like fun places like Vegas or California. I'm sure you're doing like all the cool clubs." It's like, no, you're doing a dive bar in Illinois at like on a Wednesday night where you are just upsetting their evening.
Yeah. You're dealing with, the drunks, the local drunks, and that's about it.
I love when people do comedy shows and they don't advertise it very well. So people just go out to a restaurant for dinner. They're like, "All right, well, we're gonna do some comedy now," and they're like, "We're doing what? We're doing, well, we're here to ruin your dinner
Yeah,
and
it
your
is
conversation. Everybody, be
it's
quiet now."
it's rough because 'cause you're just like, "Everyone be quiet," and, like, I was not prepared for this. It's like, it can't be good for, like, the perform it's gonna be even worse for the performer because they're just like, "Hey, surprise comedy show," and you're just like,
Oh, no,
"What?"
everybody no, everybody hates it. We do not
Yeah,
enjoy it. We like doing shows where people know comedy is happening. Comedy is not something that you can, like, just spring on people who
yeah,
are yeah, I remember one time we did this, I drove 3 hours on a Monday night from, Southern Indiana to Lexington, Kentucky. From to Lexington, Kentucky, it's like 3-hour drive, and nobody knew it was comedy night, and then we go up and there's, like, a couple families eating, and then they kinda got up and left before the show started because 'cause they're like, "Well, we need to leave now." I've never seen people eat so fast in their entire lives. And then there was like a couple on like a double date, and they were there when the show started. So they were kind of trapped to like either we can stay and be trapped or we can leave and then there's no more show. And they were kind enough to like sit there and be held hostage for like an hour and a half. And I'm like, y'all can go if you really need to.
you guys can go, I can piss myself on the stage and just say it was an accident, and you
I
guys
can
can leave.
just I can just, like I mean, I gotta drive home 3 hours anyway, so I mean, I can beat traffic if you just get up and leave. I'm still gonna get paid the same $25.
Still gonna get paid the same $25 for the 3-hour car ride that I took.
For sure.
Do you get, when you're, like, doing, like, comedy, do you get a lot of hecklers?
I don't, thankfully. I've
That's
had it a
good.
few times. I thankfully don't get a lot of hecklers, thankfully. I don't do a lot of comedy that's, like, incendiary. Some people now when you go on Instagram or TikTok, it's always every comedy clip starts with, like, a guy going like, what was that? What'd you say?" And then it's like a heckler exchange, and they're, like, fighting back and forth. I do not thrive in that environment. I am a very non-confrontational person. I will think of great insults on the way home or in the
Yeah.
shower 3 days later, be like, "I could have crushed him and blown up TikTok had I just said this instead of this." Um, my some people thrive in that. They love hecklers or whatever. I do not. I would much rather go up and be able to tell my jokes to an attentive crowd who's enjoying me. Maybe do some crowd work, like talk to the audience in like a fun, controlled way. I don't like people like just yelling shit. I do not enjoy it. I'm not somebody's like I need those clips. And some comedians go out of their way to do like really crass incendiary material to like get that reaction, people yelling it out.
Yeah.
And some people have been accused of like using plants where they're like paying audience members to yell so they can have these like crazy good YouTube clips or whatever.
Mhm.
But for me, I would just rather go up, do my jokes, have some fun, and get down without incident. Like that is what I want. That is what I really hope for every time I go up there. Like, just please like me enough to laugh and listen, and then we can all go home.
I feel like that's what everyone would want,
Yeah.
but like, that's what everyone should want, but yeah,
Yeah.
there are confrontational.
Yeah. It's like, I bet I could let me just do the harshest abortion jokes for 10 minutes,
Yeah.
see if anybody starts yelling stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. "Oh, is this an evil" I'm doing a show at an evangelist, Christian church. I'm gonna do abortion jokes, and, yeah, I'm just gonna see how it goes. Like,
Dude, we're just
I
gonna see
think
how
you
it
know
goes.
how it goes.
Yeah, I think you're gonna you know how it goes. They're gonna be like, "Oh my god, no, 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 no." So yeah, I've had hecklers before. I've handled them, but never in like the, oh my god, you burned it. It's always like, please
"Oh,
just stop.
shit." Just like,
It's always just like, please stop talking. I'm gonna insult your shirt, and that's gonna be it. And
yeah,
that's all I got. That's all I got.
yeah. Just like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna make fun of one random thing, and that'll be it.
Hopefully that'll get you to shut up a little bit. If not, well, I don't know. And what's super fun is like if you're getting heckled in a comedy club, like if Brent has a heckler, or whatever in a comedy club, security will be there to like escort them out. But a lot of
Mhm.
these like dive bars or like one nighters that we do, they don't have security. There's like, well, he's a regular, so he comes in here every night, so he can
Yeah,
pretty much just shit all over you if he wants to, because well, that's just Bud being Bud. Am I right, y'all?
yeah. He put my son through college with his drinking problems, so yeah, I'm just gonna let him say whatever he wants to, and you're just like, I guess that's fair. What's your kid going to college for? Like, oh, he's also gonna be a bartender. Like, you really have to go to college for that? Right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, people do weird stuff in comedy shows. They just don't know how to act. I've followed people who I've had comedy shows start with a moment of silence. Be like, we just lost a good man this week. We're gonna start with a moment of silence. Thank you for that. All right. Well, for our first comedian, I think he's got some funny stuff. Here's Gavin Eddings.
Here's Gavin Eddings. If you guys want to make a donation to the widow in the back, there's flowers too. You're just like, okay, how do I follow that?
Yeah, I got another one, a weird one. It was when I was still doing comedy at college. There was like a Veterans Day thing, and they wanted a comedian in the cafeteria for like Veterans Day. I've never served. I've never been in the military or anything. I followed a man telling a very deeply personal story about his father serving in the Korean War. Then I'm like, you guys ever hear about marijuana? And like doing all these like straight edge weed jokes and shit. I was like, oh, okay. And just it was people don't know where to book comedy. People don't know how comedy fits into the grand scheme of like entertainment.
Yeah, it's like getting booked at a funeral.
Yeah.
I'm sure that like a comedian's funeral is probably funny though.
Yeah, I've never done a funeral. I have done more weddings than I ever thought I would do, which is like 2. And that's 2 more than I don't know why one of my friends was like, "Come do stand up at our wedding." I was like, "I don't want to." He's like, "No, do it." And then I did like 10 minutes of bad comedy. He's like, "Yeah, that wasn't super good." I was like, "I told you. People want to dance and
Fucking
drink.
warned you. No
I
one wants to
warned
hear
you.
me joke.
I warned you about this." I was like, "Hey guys, where you from? What are you here for? What do you do for a living?"
What are you guys doing in town? Oh, the wedding? Oh, okay.
The wedding. Oh, the thing we're at. Cool,
Oh,
perfect.
oh,
Great.
got it. Me too. Me too. What about you, lady? How'd you meet the? Oh, you had sex with them in college. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, you're having an affair? Oh, I ruined the whole wedding. Okay, great.
Uh-oh,
All right.
uh-oh,
Yeah.
drama, am I right?
Yeah.
Let's ask grandpa what he's thinking about.
Grandpa's just like super anti-Semitic, and you're just like, oh my god, Grandpa.
No, not
Like, no,
here.
don't talk to Grandpa. Don't talk to Grandpa. He's like, well, back in my day, just like cut the mic, cut the mic.
We're out of here. We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here.
So you're a pretty big horror fan. Are
Yes.
you a believer in like ghost and shit?
Yeah, I am. I'm a paranormal guy. I actually, so for me, my horror wheelhouse, I love slasher movies. Anytime we get into like demons or like ghosts, I freak out because I'm like, well, that could be real. Like I know Jason isn't real, but I'm like, these demons. And that's just I grew up very in a very religious household, like in a very religious Midwestern area. So it's like, well, I don't know about like these evil clowns and sewers, but if I watch this movie, I'm pretty sure I'm inviting a demon into my home. It's like the reason I don't want to go to like any paranormal places where they're like, well, this is a real haunting. We have one near Louisville, Kentucky called Waverly Hills. It's like one of the most haunted former sanitariums. And people are like, yeah, I went in there and I like, heard things in the halls and I like felt the presence of like just evil and ghosts. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going there because my fear is I'm gonna bring a demon home with me.
Yeah,
And then I had to deal with that in my home. And I'm not ready for that kind of pressure.
yeah. It's funny how like some people are like that. Like my one friend, I don't know why that got so loud. My one friend, he's like terrified of ghosts, but like growing up, I lived next to a cemetery, so I was like never like he would like go like we would like be coming home and he'd be like, oh, we have to go around the cemetery because this night you can't go through the cemetery at night. You'll catch a ghost, and I'm just like, I'm going through the cemetery because I'm not doing the extra mile like to go around it. Like I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, 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 we have to, we have to. I'm like, no, you're gonna tough it out. And he never got attacked by a demon, so I feel like I
that
was
you
vindicated.
that you know of. He might have some inner demons that he's now struggling with. But
That's
yeah,
true.
I just don't like have friends who like I don't want to be around a Ouija board. I don't care if it's like if I know your friend is moving the planet. I just don't want to be around it. Like I don't want this Ouija board because I've heard enough like stories from like friends like yeah this guy I know his one of his friends had a roommate who did a Ouija board and then they got like punched by a ghost and I was like well that had to have happened
The
that
Ouija
is
board always gets me because it's like a Hasbro toy. and,
yes
and
yeah
they're just like, here's this toy. Like, I don't understand how. Like, I mean, I guess it's like from like the taboo of it, where they're just
hmm
like, oh yeah, I want to do this, and like, oh, it can't be real. But like, if people really thought it was real, like, why are they just like, why is that in the toy section? If it's like a portal to hell, why is that next to like the checkers and the chess? Like, why
yeah
is that there?
I was really surprised to learn that like the Ouija board was like a Hasbro. It's like Hasbro makes like Monopoly and Clue and the demon summoning
Yeah,
board.
exactly.
And there's like a factory that's just like mass marketing Ouija boards, like making the plastic planchettes, making the board. Like you would, like you said, you would think that if it's so evil and opening portals to hell, like they'd be like, we should stop making these.
Yeah,
We've got a
or you
lot
would
of
think that like the factory would like get sucked into like another realm or something, just like
I mean, I don't know where this factory is. They could have a portal straight to hell where they're
that is true.
manufacturing the Ouija boards. So I've never not. I can't say that that isn't what's happening. But yeah, Ouija boards made by Hasbro. I think they should do for Ouija boards though, like they do for Monopoly and have like themed Ouija boards.
Oh, that'd
Like
be so cool.
I'd buy some Bob's Burgers Ouija. I think that'd be cool. I think that'd
Yeah,
be great.
I'd buy a Pokemon one if I could like open a portal to hell and like a Charizard came out. Okay, I'm in.
You're
I'll
like
fly that thing around.
You're like, "What, spirit, are you here? What do you say?" It's like, "I choose you,
I
Pikachu."
choose you.
Like, what does
That
that
would
mean?
suck though if it was Pokemon. You're just like spirit, where are you? Are you here? What do you have to say? And then it's just like Pikachu, Pikachu. It's just saying the same goddamn thing over and over again. It's
That's
like,
good.
oh, damn it.
Damn, what's going on here? That's not I don't like that.
I don't like that. It's creeping me out.
For sure.
So do you do like a lot of? Do you go to like horror conventions a lot?
Yeah, I've been to a couple horror conventions. I've been to my favorite is I love Horror Hound. Like Horror Hound has some here in the Midwest. They have one in Cincinnati, Ohio. They have one in Indianapolis, Indiana. I missed the Cincinnati one this past year, this past March, because I was booked to do stand up at an anime convention, which is they're very supportive because they have just as much anxiety as you do on the stage. But they're like, we're just rooting for you. We're rooting for you. But yeah, I go to horror conventions. I've done reviews of like there's this convention called Days of the Dead that I went to twice and I'm not welcome back at because I did not give them very good reviews because it was kind of a mess, a little bit of a mess. But it would those are fine. But yeah, I love horror conventions. I love just any kind of pop culture conventions. I haven't been to a lot of cons post COVID just because a
Yeah.
lot of everybody's kind of like getting back into the swing of those.
Hmm.
But I do love I love spending way too much money on things I don't need
Yeah.
and way too much money like getting people to sign posters for me.
Yeah.
It's part of it.
It is funny how like I'll like drop like a few $100s at like a con, but like
Mhm.
I'll see the same thing online and I'll be like, that's too much. No. But like I'll see it
Yeah.
in person, I'll be like, here's an extra 10. Here you go. You take that.
I mean, I'm already here. How I always rationalize it, like, well, I'm saving on shipping. And
Yeah.
you're like, but you're not. You're
You're
not.
not.
Are you
It's
overnight airing it? Because yeah, then you are saving on shipping. But other than that, you're probably getting screwed over on it.
you're screwing yourself over. Just like, but like I'm helping a local business. Like you're not. You're helping a guy who snipes all the things off websites and then he
Yeah.
sells them at like a huge markup. You're just like, eh,
I've been behind people before at conventions. I can't remember what his name is. The guy that play I think Henry Thomas something. He plays the day he was in ET and he was also in I think he was he's also in like Haunting of Hill House. And I remember like there were some people there who were clearly like reselling stuff, but they like pay for the autographs and he's like super good. But they had like a cart full of stuff for him to sign, but they paid for it. It's not like he's
Yeah.
talking about the airport or something like that. But it's just part of the experience of like, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna give this person $60 to write their name and have a conversation with me for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, but you know what? I have a signed screen poster that we have in our living room that's signed by like Nev Campbell and David Arquette and like Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard and Jamie Kennedy. And it's great. It looks so nice. And it's like, yes, did all these signatures cost like $400 in total? Yes, but it really ties the room together.
I feel like Matthew Lillard's got to be super nice, right?
Matthew Lillard is the nicest fucking person in the
Oh,
world. I
good.
met him in 2019. He was so incredibly kind. He hugs everybody in line, and his line takes forever to get through because he spends time with you, like talking, asking you about like your stuff, and then he signs it. But yeah, everybody who meets Matthew Lillard walks away like a changed person because he's just like the so incredibly warm and welcoming, and he does it for like the fans, not just for the money. He does
Yeah.
enjoy a lot of money that he makes from this,
I mean, he
but you can
deserves
tell
it.
that he cares about the fans.
That's good. I
Yeah.
like that. I
Mhm.
hate it when like when you go to get a signing and you're just like, oh wow, you're a dick. Okay, thanks.
I've never had anybody be like a super dick to me, but Bruce Campbell was underwhelming, which was super disappointing. And maybe
Yeah.
he was just tired and had a lot of stuff, but it wasn't very personal at all. And you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I waited so long for this. You're one of my
Yeah.
heroes. You're like on my bucket list. And then one of the actors that played one of the Jasons, who's like one of the most probably like Kane Hodder, was kind of like not very nice and kind of a dick. And everybody was like, he was so nice to me. He was so nice to me. And I was like, well, I caught him on a bad day where he was not super great.
God damn it.
Yeah. And then
That's who
another,
we.
yeah,
Let's,
it's
you
fun
go.
to have friends who like, because I met Tony Todd who played Candyman, and he was like incredibly nice, but a friend of mine was like, he was a fucking asshole to me. And I was like, well, he was cool to me. So I had a good so yeah, it goes back and forth. Like you catch people on bad days, and that's
Yeah.
how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. It's got to be rough when you're like a celebrity and like people are like, oh, like you can't have a bad day, or else like everyone's gonna be like, no, he's a fucking asshole. Just like, no, I just had a bad day. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm nice
but it's
most
like
of the time.
yeah, but it's like you only have like that one experience with him,
Yeah.
or and he probably for me, a lot of I never fail to have the most awkward people go right before me to meet celebrities. I had one time where I saw somebody get shitty with Sean Astin from like Rudy and like Lord of the Rings. And
Yeah.
he was super nice, but we were like at the last day of the con, he had like a lot of people to get through, like signing stuff. And the guy in front of me was like, can you write on this Goonies Never Say Die? He's like, sorry, man, I really don't have time to write something that long. Look at all these people who I've got to get through, but I'm happy to sign your name. And like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay. But I just saw you talking to that person for a couple minutes. And he's like, I was like, you're just fucking insulting.
Yeah.
Like
Just like, don't be
Sean
a dick.
Astin, Sean Astin doesn't have to be here for
Yeah.
us. And then I'm like, hello, can you please sign my Funko Pop, please? I really liked you and Rudy and Lord of the Rings. You're really super nice, and I appreciate your activism, your activism. And he's like, thank you, I really appreciate that. All right, bye now. And I'm
Yeah. You're like, I'm sorry that guy was such a dick.
all right.
I don't know
Um,
him, but I hate him.
the other weird interaction was we were getting ready to meet Patrick Wilson from The Conjuring. And he's like in a bunch of he's like in Watchmen, he's been in a bunch of stuff. And
Mhm.
because in The Conjuring, somebody asked him to sign their Bible. And
So weird.
he's like, I don't really feel comfortable doing this. He's like, well, there's an outside cover, so I can sign that. He's like, normally I don't like signing Bibles. And he's like, well, okay, thanks. And I was like, hey, man, really liking this. I'm not gonna have you sign a Bible. He's like, I really appreciate that, but I just don't. You do know he's not a real exorcist, right? Like you do know that's not
That's
what
not
he
like
does.
powering up your Bible. It'd be funny if that person was just like, I got the signature, and they like ran home and like they're just like, Mom, I can get rid of the demon now. And she's like, good, good, you
When
got
you
it.
walk into the cemetery again, I told you that's how you catch the demons.
That's how you get him. That's how you get
That's
him,
how you
Mom.
get. Yeah, that's how you do it. What you
Fucking
do.
idiot. my one friend, he like loves getting like things signed, like his Funko Pops,
Mhm.
and like a couple weeks ago, he like twisted his ankle. So when he went to the con, he just had a wheelchair,
Oh,
and
no.
like so he's at the con and he's waiting in line, and they're like, "You can come up to the front, sir. You can come up to the front, sir." And so he's like trying to tell him like, I'm not disabled. I hurt my ankle and I'm just lazy, and I just they're like, "No, you can come to the front of the line." He's like, "No, no, 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 no. I don't want special attention." And they're just like, this man might be dying, so he's in a wheelchair, and he's just like, I don't want to do this. Please don't do this. So he's getting like wheeled up to the front, and like no one's listening to him. And then he gets up to the front, and he's like, and it was Sean Schemmel,
Okay,
voice of
Goku.
Goku.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey," he's like, "Oh man, are you okay? Are you okay?" He's like, "I'm fine. They just pushed me up to the front. I didn't want to." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And then he's like telling him about like what to do with his ankle. He's like, "Yeah, you got to ice that," and he's
You
like,
gotta
"Yeah."
train
So
it. You gotta ice that in 4 times Earth's gravity to really get it to heal properly.
he was like, "Yeah, Goku told me about all these like cool stretches to do for my ankle," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
I didn't get to meet Sean Schimmel. He was at, a con in Indianapolis, like 8 years ago, but I got to meet Christopher Sabat, who does Vegeta,
He
and
does
he was one too.
everything.
Yeah, he was one who does, like, he's like All Might and My Hero and
Hmm.
Vegeta and Dragon Ball Z, and he's everywhere. And he was one too who was, like, taking time to, like, talk to people and just he was super nice, and I'm really bummed because I didn't get a Funko Pop sign. I had him sign, like, an 8 by 10 at his table, and I was like, "Should have had him sign a Funko Pop," because at 8 by
Yeah,
10, he signed in, like, a black marker and you can barely see it. And I was like, "I
yeah.
made a huge mistake."
He will sign like whatever you ask him to. Because my one friend, like, he was like, "Can you sign it? It's over 9,000." And he was like, "Yeah, no problem, man." And he like just takes it off. He's like, "It's over 9,000."
I don't wanna ruin anything for your friend, but I'm pretty sure he's written it's over 9,000
Oh yeah,
a lot
definitely,
of times.
definitely. I always tell him to like, because you know how like a lot of voice actors like when they start out, they kind of take any job that they can get.
Mhm.
So they like, a lot of them take like hentai
Yeah.
stuff. So I always tell him, I'm like, dude, you got to get him to sign something that he like probably said in like a hentai, just like a super deep cut. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. He's like, he would respect you for it. He's like, no, he won't. He'll just be creeped out. He's like, oh, this guy watches porn. He loves my voice so much that he's watching all the porn with it. And I was like, oh, I
I
disagree.
I like going up to actors and doing, like, the deepest cuts. Like, when I got to meet the Black Power Ranger Walter Jones, I was like, "You know what, man? People are gonna come up to you and tell you that they loved you as the Black Ranger. I'm gonna tell you, I loved you as drug dealer Darnell on The Shield." He's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, man, you're gonna." He's like, "I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you checking that and remembering that."
I really appreciate you remembering that. Thank you for following my career.
Yes, and I was like, "You were really good in the Disney Channel original movie Brink as well. You were really good on Team
Oh
X
God,
Blades."
I loved that movie. Growing up, that
Yeah,
movie was the shit. That made
so
me
good.
want to start like rollerblading. And then like I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna do a jump, and I did a jump, and I like broke my ankle, and I was like, I'm never gonna do rollerblading again.
There was a time in the late 90s between Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and movies like Brink. You're like, I gotta do extreme sports. I am
Yeah.
bound to do the X Games. Anything less than the X Games, and I'm going to. My life is incomplete. And I still
Hmm.
feel like a lot of my anxiety and depression comes from not making the X Games. So I think we can trace it back to like a kind of a weird childhood, and also not making the X Games
Yeah, it's Tony Hawk's fault.
and getting a perfect a perfect score on like the street competition.
Hmm.
Mhm. So yeah.
Yeah, I had that too. I would always cheat though, so I had like the perfect manual, and then like I would always score.
You're like perfect balance. You're like, "I don't
Yeah,
do anything. I can grind forever."
I can do this forever. I remember one time I did it for like an hour, and like they were like, the competition is over. Oh my god, he's still going, and I was like, yeah,
You're like manualing while the clock's been at 0 for 45 minutes.
yeah,
That's still
and like
going.
I think it's the coolest thing ever. But like then I started thinking like what? Imagine if that happened in like real life. Just like this guy's been doing it for like over an hour. Like yeah, it's impressive, but like Jesus Christ, let's keep going. There's like
Let's
no, he's
just
still
stop.
racking up points.
He's still racking up points. Oh, he did a switch. He did goofy foot. He's doing a goofy now.
Oh my god, this man is amazing.
I love it. Perfect tens. Would watch again.
Oh, anything else you want to talk about?
I think I'm good. This has been unpleasant at best. No, no, this has been
I had fun.
no, this is great. This has been awesome. Thank you for having me on. This is so cool. If you want to support me or check out my stuff, I'm on YouTube at Gavin Loves Horror. I'm also on Twitter, which is where you found me at Gavin Horror, where I talk about movies. The big thing that apparently has really helped your life, which again, that is the nicest thing I could have heard. I really appreciate you saying that. I do a podcast with one of my best friends, Brent Tierhune. It's part of what I lovingly called the Tier universe of just all of Brent's podcasts. We do a podcast together called They're Coming to Get You. It is a horror movie podcast where we break down a horror movie each week, and it's a lot of fun. Even if you don't like horror movies, we sometimes get into like weird conversations about like TV dinners. We will talk about TV dinners for an uncomfortable amount
Yeah,
of time, and which we all agree that hungry mans are not enough food. But if you
I
like
know.
weird banter between friends, definitely check it out. I've also been on his podcast a bunch called The Field Trip with Brent Terhune. We got some good episodes on there. So definitely check it out. And then, yeah, Sean, this is fun. This is awesome to have you on. And thank you for letting me have this platform to like talk about like depression and like encourage. Like, this is so
Yeah,
cool. And I really do appreciate you having me on.
yeah. And remember, next time you're going through something rough, just I really like you. You're a really cool
Oh,
dude.
thanks,
I
man.
love
I
your
appreciate
shows.
that. Thank you. I always
You know?
I always worry like I'm gonna go on this show. It's gonna be super fucking awkward, and he's gonna think I'm a dick.
Um,
So
my go-to is I always assume that people hate me, and like
yeah.
my psychiatrist is like, no, that's not true. People, they're probably just like at the very worst indifferent towards you. And I was like, no, they meet me and they're like, fuck this guy.
Well,
She's like,
I met you for the
no,
first time here today, and I very much like you. I think you're super talented, and I think you have a great platform to keep doing some cool stuff.
me too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching Small Obtainable Goals. Hopefully this helped you in some way or another, or it can, help somebody that you know. If you're having trouble, call 988. That's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and they'll, hook you up with somebody who can help you in your local area. It's all free, so take advantage of it. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, or don't, whatever makes you happy. I'm Sean. This is my sister,
I'm
Kirsten.
Kirsten.
Yeah,
Oh,
you've ruined it. All right, thanks everybody.
and cut.